Welcome to Breaking Into Video Games. My name is HB Duran. I am the founder of My Silent Hill and Video Game News Source. I worked extensively in game journalism for Girl Gamer, and I am now a game artist as well. And so the purpose of this panel is to help break some of those barriers and dispel some myths about how hard it is to get into the video game industry. It's not easy. Like any dream, it's worth fighting for, but there's a myth that if you're not an artist and you're not a programmer, or if you're not best friends with somebody in the industry, you can't make it in, and that's simply not true. So today we have an extra awesome panel today. I'm so articulate. I will introduce them for you so you can revel in their glory. From the far right, your right, not mine. Serafina Pechan. She's the founder of World Fusion, a game publisher. She's also a consultant, and she's currently working in virtual reality. So, ooh, very fancy. Give it up for Serafina, please. Sitting next to her is Brian Robbins. He was the founder of Riptide Games. He's a software dev engineer for Amazon. He's served on the board of the IGDA, the International Game Developers Association, and he also works as a consultant. So Brian knows his stuff. Please give it up for Brian. All right. This gentleman over here, this is Greg Stone. He was a production director and senior producer at id Software. He has designed and overseen multiplayer maps for Doom 3 and Quake Wars. He's currently a senior producer and product manager for Backflip Studios, who is here on the floor. Go say hi to them. Please give it up to Greg Stone. Am I making stuff up?
Yeah, no, it's
awesome.
I don't even know why I'm here.
Hey, your LinkedIn lies then. Just go with it. It's good. This is Matt Nyquist. He is the founder and CEO of Nyquist Industries. Their first app called Easy Money launched with rave reviews. It's doing very well in the App Store. Check that out. They're currently developing their first video game, but prior to that, he was the founder and editor-in-chief of game news sites Breakman X and Padinga. He's worked in the film industry, as a sound engineer, assistant writer, and all-around fun guy. Give it up for Matt. He's also my boss, so.
She's awesome.
So if that sounded like really, it's like, he's awesome. That's why. All right. Dana is the executive board member of World Studies Federation. She works at Future Studies. She is the founder and executive director of Evolutionary Guidance Media, R&D. She designs media capable of fostering individual and global ethics. Her award-winning game Cyberhero League challenges players to tackle 15 global challenges, partnering with nonprofit organizations in the real world, making a difference. Give it up for Dana. These out of order. I am so sorry, Dana. All right. So do we have any burning questions you've run in here to get? Yes, sir.
Would it be generally more difficult to make an online multiplayer game than it is to make a single player game?
Yeah, if you want details, I mean, I don't know if I'm the best answer, but there's a lot of server and back-end things that you need to do to get something online and make sure matchmaking works properly. So there's a lot involved there that a single-player game just doesn't really require in order to make that happen. So I'd start there, unless you've already got like a game, for example, that already has multiplayer, and you can just make a mod of that. They kind of take care of a lot of the systems for you, and then it's even maybe easier to do the multiplayer version.
Yes. Anyone? Yes, sir.
Any tips on getting your game on Greenlight or marketing your game?
Start now.
I mean, for marketing your game is really kind of similar to getting your game on Greenlight. It's all about building a fan base. I think one of the challenges that a lot of developers don't realize is like they think they're going to put their game on Greenlight or they're going to launch a Kickstarter, and then suddenly people are going to find it, and that's how they're going to build their audience. And you really need to start building your audience and building a fan base and telling people about it, getting people excited about it, well before you get onto Greenlight or launch a Kickstarter or anything like that. Like, if you're building a game and you want it to be financially successful, you have to build an audience. You have to take ownership of it, and don't just assume that, like, hey, once we get to Greenlight, then people are going to see it and it's going to be this awesome thing. All the games that you hear about that people are sending around on Greenlight, a lot of the fan base knew about that before it was going, and they were ready. And I've had several friends that are like, hey, our game's launching on Kickstarter, our game's going to launch on Greenlight in 2 weeks. Can you post something about it when it does, or something like that? It's really, you've got to get the word out ahead of time, and that will help you become more successful when you do get to Greenlight or Kickstarter or wherever you're trying to push stuff.
It's incredibly important to do that, because if you think of real world type stuff, someone can walk by and they can see something, but online the only way they're going to find something is if you have some kind of carrot to get them in there, whether it's advertising, whether you're going around and promoting your game, whatever you're doing. But you got to treat it like it's your calling. Like, this is the greatest thing that's ever going to happen in the history of humanity, and like the people in your base are lucky enough to be a part of it. Like, you have to really, really push, and it's very possible. And if you really believe in your game or whatever you're making, you can do it. But you got to constantly push.
I'd like to add something to that. In terms of marketing your game or getting information out there, something that wasn't mentioned was timing. Pay attention to when you're going to try to build your base, when you're going to try to seed your community, when you're going to try to get people interested in it. Find out what you're competing against at the time, whether that's in games, in movies, entertainment, or any other big, huge thing going on in the world. There are better times to launch things than others, and during the whole phase of trying to market.
Great. Yes, red shirt.
So I'm going to ask each one of you the same question. What is your biggest networking tip?
Game Developers Conference. Period.
Yeah.
Go to Game Developers Conference. You've got 30, 40,000 of your closest, dearest other developer friends. You'll find the people there that you need. Meet. Every interest group is there. Everything that you need is really there at that one location. From there, you can span out, but that, for me, would be that.
Yeah, I'd say sort of along the same lines. I mean, certainly Game Developers Conference, but industry events in general. Here in Colorado, we've got a really good IGDA chapter, and there's several other meetup groups as well. If you're not from the Denver area, find your local developers, whether it's through Meetup, IGDA, whatever, and go start meeting there, and go become a genuine part of the industry and the community there, and just get to know people. And then, absolutely, it makes it so much easier when you go to larger events like GDC, because now it's not 30,000 people that you've never met before. It's 30,000 people with 50 or so that you have met, and you can kind of go to places and help meet other people and kind of network that way. But it's really just kind of start trying to get involved in the community, and I would say on a local level before you worry too much about GDC, although certainly GDC is a place that you should get to as well.
Yeah, I'd say the same things. I'm pretty bad at networking in general, I think, so I may not be the best person to ask, but I do think that there's a lot of meetups, and I was surprised. I went online the other day and saw that there's several meetups in the area that are where people are getting together to talk about games. So I would start there too. I think those are always the best things to do, and yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, I would say that's about the. I would say about the same thing. I think the local, the mention of, even just people that you don't realize who they might know. I mean, it sounds really crazy, but for example, in my personal experience in trying to network, I found out that somebody that I knew, from, I don't know, 5th grade or something like that, happened to be friends with the guy who's the president of Electronic Software Association in DC, and it's it's a nonprofit organization, but basically they're the hub for all gaming kind of answers to them. And I got a chance to meet him and get tips from him. So you just can't overlook the fact that you really might know somebody who knows somebody. So the meetups is a great suggestion, and also, of course, game conferences.
All these are awesome suggestions. I would say exactly what she said. You don't know what you don't know. You could talk to someone and they could have, some amazing contact that could be exactly what you need, and you'd have no idea of it. And even if they don't have that, you might find something else out through that will just help you, exponentially. You should, everyone that you know and everyone that they should know what you're doing, because somewhere in that network there might be someone that it could grab onto. The other thing I'd say about networking is when I first started networking, I was terrified of it. I was like, oh my God, I have to talk to strangers. This is like insane. But you just fake it. And they can't tell either. You go in and you act like, you're confident, even though like you feel like you want to throw up. You act like you're confident. You go in there and you strike up conversations with, people that do things that you're interested in. And most of the time they're going to be pretty nice and kind and, helpful to you if you have that courage to be able to, fake the confidence and talk to them.
Great question. Yes, sir.
From a programming and engineering aspect, is there anything that you're seeing that companies are looking for as far as shortages in tools or language and knowledge that people are bringing to the companies?
We just went through a big round of hiring engineers, actually. One of the things that I know that companies are really looking for and paying a lot for is Swift experience because of iOS and because of, Mac. I know it's not the hugest gaming platform, but I know that's really in demand. C# is also really big. There's a lot of cross-platform stuff you can do with C#. So I would say those are kind of the two that I've run across.
I'm going to say the exact opposite, and just basically really good programmers. Most of the engineers that I've hired, and at Amazon, it's kind of the same way as Amazon has, the term they use is a fungible engineer. And there's some people that we'll hire that are specialists, and like this guy's really crazy, amazingly good at this, and this girl's super crazy at this. But most people that Amazon hires are fungible engineers, which is very good, solid computer science fundamentals, and their ability to program in a language or a environment. And if we need them to do something else, then we will give them the time to ramp up on that, because good programmers and good software engineers are able to ramp up on different languages. So at least on Amazon and all the companies that I've run and hired, I've cared a lot less about what you know right now than just, are you a really good engineer? And I'd say just get very good at computer science fundamentals is more than any other single specific language. So.
I agree with that as well. I was just thinking, the people that we hired actually didn't even have knowledge of some of the languages that we hired them to develop for, but what we looked at was kind of like their base skills and their ability to learn, their ability to adapt to new things, because if you can do that, you can do anything, just pretty much what you said.
Good. Yes.
It seems like everyone wants to code and be an engineer or developer, but I actually kind of want to go into marketing or business side of the industry. So how transferable is that kind of meetup idea? I know there's like GMS in San Francisco, but there's not. I kind of tried to research more meetups in the area or regionally closer. But how transferable is that idea of finding meetups in that side of the industry?
I don't know about meetups, but I think there's some good news there for you at least. Like, you don't necessarily need to be immersed in the game industry to easily get a job in your case. Like, generally you can find a lot of game companies generally don't fully understand the marketing side of things. And so they tend to look for people who just have experience in that stuff, really just filling in a niche, because ultimately we're great at making games, but we need people who are great at marketing, and those similar to coding, those kind of skills sort of just generally apply, and you can pick up the nuances of what you're trying to do for the game industry itself.
I'd like to add to that. It also depends what type of marketing you're talking about. If you're talking about traditional, I want to get the word out there that this game is available, or more of in-game stats is like, ooh, they like this, but they don't like this feature. At this point, everyone leaves the game, let's fix this. There's different ways of approaching marketing. It depends what you're talking about. It also depends if you're looking more for indies or AAA titles or big, huge companies. Decide kind of more what type of marketing you want to do, research, provide, consultant. And then from there, you can find the companies out there that are already doing it, and that might actually work out better than meetups, I think. Maybe find out who's out there and contact them directly and find out what types of free profiles and online marketing information that they have. A lot of them provide free profiles online of research that they've done, and you get an idea of what's provided.
I just kind of along with that, I would just, like, if you figure out what you want to do, find someone else that has been successful at doing what you want to do, and then see what they did to get there. Because I've found that that's one of, see the path that's already been blazed for you, kind of.
Great. Yes, in the back.
I have a question for you. I have a game that's in the middle of a proposal, but it's just me right now. I was wondering if you guys had any recommendations on team building after that, because after I get through this proposal, really it's just me and a 3D artist I have now. But after that point, after this proposal's done, I'm going to want to build a much bigger team because it's going to be a much bigger thing after that. You guys have any recommendations on how to actually look, network, and that stuff for pro versus indie?
Yeah, I mean, I think a big distinction is going to be whether you're going to have budget to hire people, and so you're looking for employees and that sort of thing, or if you just need collaborators that are willing to sort of put sweat equity in and hope this comes out better at the end. If you're trying to hire people, then, well, frankly, I think sort of my first thing would still be local meetup groups and networking there. If your budget is low, then you may want to talk to some of the schools that are in town that have game degree programs. Potentially even offering internships, that sort of thing. If you're and if you're going to have a lot of budget, then there's a lot of sites out there like GameJobs.com and Gama Sutra message boards and stuff like that. But really, it's I would always kind of start with talking to local meetup groups. And if you're trying to hire people, you can hire out of those groups, and especially if you go several times, you'll learn the people that you think you'd like to work with better and more. And you can also try to get recommendations from them and friend of a friend sort of things.
Oh, one more question. Would you guys recommend me either doing that, or would it be a good idea to take this to a company? I mean, in your situation, what would you do? Because
You mean outsource it and just have somebody else build it?
no, not even. I would like to be part of it. I mean, it's
Sure.
Talking about because after the proposal and everything, the fan base is gonna increase tenfold. So when it comes into this, I would like to maybe propose this game that's already been set up through all this to a bigger company, that has a bigger name out there, Ubisoft, somebody, and then turn it from that to part. Do it that way, go more. I don't know how to explain it. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, the reason that you'd want to incorporate or, make a company or LLC or whatever is basically for, protection and liability and that sort of thing, and to, just make it kind of a more official organization. And kind of to touch on your previous question, it seems to me like, it might be a smaller budgeted project, which is perfectly fine. It could end up being humongous. But the way that I would look at it is, you need to find a group of people that absolutely live and breathe what you want to do. And that's, I've done a lot of building teams together, and at the beginning with no budget whatsoever. You need to go to places where people are interested in what you're interested, and then talk to them and get them interested in what you're doing. And then instead of thinking of it as you starting your company and you're going to do this thing, think of it as getting an army together that's going to vault over this wall that is preventing you from getting your goal done. It's a yeah. I mean, there's no secret formula, but you got to be able to get people impassioned about what you're doing.
Yeah, and one thing I would say about that, just to kind of touch on another point, is I would pick the direction you want to take this first. So it sounded like you had a couple different options in your head of what you could do with this. If you have one in mind that you at least start with and start driving down that road, you may end up branching in some ways, but keeping all those options open will probably keep you from pushing forward as fast in one direction as you could, and failing even potentially, but at the same time you'll learn some lessons and then take it a different direction. So I just go down the road you're most confident in first, and then start kind of veering from there.
And be bold. Plan to succeed. Don't when you start out with the project, think this is going to be the biggest thing ever, not like, oh man, I hope this gets done. Because if you think about like this is going to be the biggest thing ever, then you're going to subconsciously try to make that happen.
Yep. So, oh boy, a lot of people. Let's start in the front. We'll work our way back. Yes.
So, if you make a game with a wide variety of weapons, would that be, would you need a big team to get that done quickly, or a small one?
Would you need a large team to do more weapons, or could a small
I
team
had a
do
game
that?
where there were about 200 different weapons and one guy did them. There are other and animated them. There are other guys, companies who will have 200 weapons and will have 400 people. It really depends what you're able to do. But it is possible to do it yourself if you have the right skills.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, in the letter jacket.
What are some of your most proud projects?
Yeah. What are you most proud of in your projects? Time to shameless self-promotion time.
There's so many.
Go for it.
I'll give kind of a cool answer, which is the very first game I actually put out there. It was a darts game, a really bad darts game that we called Pretty Good Darts.
Aptly named.
Pretty good, but it was the first game that I ever made and actually got released. So I'd say that's probably the most proud thing that I've done is just a very simple game, especially looking back on it now. But yeah, just.
Mine isn't a single project. It's the fact that after 20 years, still here. Lots of failures, some successes, lots of everything in between, but still kicking, still there, still in the industry, and still working at it. And so that would be my proudest.
We're so glad too.
Yeah, I think like I don't know. There's this moment when you release something where like anything's possible. It seems like kind of in your mind. You're just so excited about the world seeing what you made. But I think the first time I made a multiplayer level was for the Doom 3 expansion, and I put it in. I played it with the rest of the world, and it was like, here's something I dreamed up in my head, and other people are now in my vision. And there's nothing like that feeling for me. That was the neatest thing ever. There's probably not that many people online playing with me, but ultimately, that's all that mattered was that someone was there.
I would say so far my proudest moment is that we just recently learned that the game that we're developing was accepted into the Games Learning and Society Showcase that's in University of Wisconsin. And so that's kind of one of our, we've had a couple of other accolades, but we haven't released the game yet. And this one is, I don't know, it seems like it's more in the industry than some of our other awards were, and that was the advice I kept getting when I was starting out, and I've only been in this now for about 4 years, but everyone kept saying, you need to get more in the gaming community instead of some of the other communities you're in, because I was like in technology and compassion conferences and people trying to do alternative things with technology, but what I was wanting to do is build this game. And so this recent award I think is right now our proudest accomplishment.
For me, I would say it would be, my brother and I had a dream since we were in grade school of founding a company like the one we founded, to be able to create things and put them out there. And I feel like us getting a company out there and now being, we've been going for almost a year now, which most startups fail well before that, and there are lots of other things before that. But I would say that's my proudest moment because we get to make stuff.
Awesome. I'm gonna give it to you before your arm falls off.
So with the video game media part, how do gaming companies look at the relationship between the two? I know that there's the fact that y'all want to have good media, but until say a website or a company gets up to a certain standard of followers or whatever, is there a good way for that company to gain a relationship with any gaming company?
You mean a media company gaining a relationship?
Yeah, so if you're like a writing online business and you're focusing on telling exactly what's going on in the industry and everything else, is there a good way to start a relationship with different companies?
I would, the name of this panel, to me, says it all, breaking into the game industry. like when we first started out, when I first started out during journalism, I mean, the key is to get into places you're not supposed to be. I mean, I'll never forget when we had no business being at the Microsoft press conference and, being there. And then there's so many people that you can talk to, have a business card, give them your business card, say, I like your game, I'd like to talk to you about your game. Just, you got to be that active role and, get in places you're not supposed to. And then after that, you'll be in places you're supposed to, and then there's bigger places you're not supposed to be, and you break into those.
Yeah, I've never.
Not break the law, not break the law. Just be creative, but don't break the law.
I've never really been on that things, but there's something interesting that Peter Thiel said in his book where he's talking about like you'd find like basically a little monopoly, like so something that you can own that's all yours, but it's very small. But you've got this demographic that's totally yours, and then you just keep growing that based off of like, I want to poll in this area now or that area, and slowly start expanding this thing into something even bigger. But ultimately, if you can get one loyal following and start growing that out, you'll really be in a good spot. I mean, she's probably could answer this better than any of us, but she could tell you about how like they just grabbed off of one game even maybe and then expanded from there.
Yeah, like for me as a game journalist, and I'm sure Matt can expand on this too, of going from a gamer to a game blogger to a game journalist. Suddenly you're a journalist, you have a press pass, you're at E3, you're seeing stuff that people aren't going to play for months, it's in some cases never, because sometimes the games never come out. It's, as I was telling one of our new writers, I was like, welcome to the press. It's no longer creepy for you to contact developers directly. And he laughed, and I'm like, it's kind of true, though. I'm like, just be confident, like you've been doing this forever. Don't geek out. You'll be fine. And, but, that's really what it's about is, it's like Matt said, you go, you introduce yourself to people, and you show an interest in what they're doing. And you may be surprised at how willing and accepting they are, and they're so happy to tell you, oh, I use this, oh, I use that. And that's one of my favorite things of Comic-Con is going around and like, ooh, what'd you do to paint that? Oh, how'd you do that? How'd you do that? And they'll tell you. It's awesome, and you can learn so much, and game developing is no different.
Yeah, and I would say, kind of having been on the flip side of this, where I started an iPhone game studio right as the iPhone was taking off, and I dealt with very large, very professional media companies to very small, very unprofessional individuals. And the people that I connected with and the people that I stayed in touch with and the people that I respected were the ones that acted professional. It almost goes back to what you were saying earlier about networking. It's, fake it till you make it. Like, pretend to be professional, act professional, and act like you belong there. Absolutely try to break into places where you probably shouldn't be. But when you get there, act like you are supposed to be there and act like an actual professional, and follow up with people and treat people professionally and not like you're just some little hobbyist guy in his bedroom. And that is going to make a huge difference as far as generating long-term contacts and people that I, as a developer, am going to want to stay in touch with and form a relationship with is going to be very based on how professional you seem and how you seem to want to take the craft that you're trying to do.
I couldn't agree with that more. And just finally, I wanted to say, one of my friends when I was doing this stuff, read this book about social engineering and how what you wear greatly affects how people see you. And he did an experiment when he was still a student, and everyone thought he was a professor on campus, even other professors. So you'll be surprised how you dress changes how people treat you, and it's something that really made me mad when I was younger. But you'll be surprised how just wearing a suit, how far that'll get you. I mean, maybe they won't check your pass. I mean, it goes back to, Steven Spielberg, when he started his career, he was on a tour at Universal and made a janitor's closet his place, and he bought the best suit he could so he could just keep on going back in. I mean, it's all about not breaking the law, but being creative and getting yourself out there and being professional is a huge part of that.
Yeah, I was about to say exactly the same thing. Don't get stuck on a persona of being a gamer or having to look a certain way. It's okay if you don't wear jeans and a t-shirt. You can actually dress up a little bit. That's actually fine. And you will be shocked at how well you're received dressing just a tad better than most people usually do. I'm not saying necessarily every day, but when you're going to meet somebody. I had this meeting for, it was a pitch for our game. They wanted to buy our game, and we were talking, lots of money. We were talking about $10 million at the time. This is a while ago. And I flew to New York, did an overnight. I looked like absolute crap. But in my bag, I had everything I needed. Ducked into a bathroom before I went to my meeting. Walked out, you would never know. I had just taken a red eye and could barely keep my eyes open for this meeting. But I walked in and I looked the part. I looked like they wanted to deal with me and deal with that kind of money. It really, really makes a difference, especially when you're asking people for money or you're asking people to believe in you. That's the other thing. It's hard to believe in somebody because we are just such visual creatures, and it's true, we make instant judgments based on how you look, and so, or smell. Please shower.
Smell is important.
Awesome. All right, Batman shirt.
Could you repeat that?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Would y'all have any advice on how to keep a game design document, the scope of a game design document, fluid and organized?
Like a program or a system?
Game design document, the document that you designed.
Yeah, it's like, do you mean like for other people to collaborate, or?
I always have trouble keeping mine organized. Sometimes like
Oh, okay.
it's too big, it's too small. I don't know really.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to know if y'all have any.
For purposes of pitching it or for purposes of developing along the process?
Developing?
I think it varies by team a little bit. Like, it depends on how well you know the rest of the guys or girls on the team. It ultimately, sorry. I tend to use that, just the guys too much. But ultimately, like, I've been on teams where the game design document's been like probably close to 400 pages and kept up to date. Been on other teams where we haven't had a game design document. That's much to my chagrin as a product manager. But ultimately, like, I think it really comes down to like your team. This is kind of a cop out. So if you're with a group that's kind of spread out around the U.S., you really should keep that thing pretty detailed. But if you're in a room together and you guys are all kind of pitching out ideas and generally know the scope of the game, you may not need to get that detailed with that stuff.
Yes. Anyone else have anything to add to that? Any programs you use, any systems you use to keep things organized?
I mean, go ahead. Oh, I mean, in our process, we just use a pretty simple wiki, and the way that we organize stuff is basically, I mean, I try to kind of get in the middle of it and be the mediator between design and engineering, at least for now, and just basically make sure that the information that they want is on there and that there's not a whole lot of extraneous stuff. But, I mean, I find stuff like that, it differs on every team, just how you work better.
Oh boy, there's a lot of questions in the Hawaiian-looking shirt.
Obviously, when you get a team of developers together, you don't have focus sometimes reasonably well. What, if any, goals does development methodology set to the meetings like that? What's going on in Combine? You guys enjoy that? If you have success with it?
Can you repeat that or say it a little louder? Like, how do you keep the team focused? Do you use the Agile methodology?
I do extensively. I use both Scrum and Kanban for a team of, I guess it's getting close to 50 at this point. But we also use that to integrate Agile testing methodologies with our QA guys and stuff like that. So without getting, I mean, this could tend to get into the weeds a little bit, but I'd be happy to talk to you about that stuff afterwards. But I'm a big proponent of those things and a huge believer in it, so I'd be happy to address some of that with you.
Perfect. All right. Let's get someone from this side in the hats. Yes, sir.
Speaking of design documents, what advice do you have for those who want to get into the writing side of the industry, whether that be narrative or technical writing?
Ooh, good question. How to get into the writing side of video games?
Do it nonstop. I mean, basically, you want a good body of work, and the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. But I've always seen for things like that, you just have to be doing it all the time and really be working on it. And then once you have something you're really proud of, then show that to people, as many people as you can.
How much experience would you say that you need to have? Like, for example, if you're online and you're looking for a job where someone's looking for like a narrative designer or something like that, and you're a writer, but you're like, I don't have any experience. Like, how would you approach a situation like that? How do you get experience? It's kind of that catch-22. Like, well, I can write, but I haven't worked in games before.
I've hired several writers, narrative writers, for our games before who ran the gamut. Were just still in school, were professionals in completely other fields. And what I would do is I would have them write samples for me beforehand. I said, okay, you haven't done it, but you want to do this. Here's a scenario for what applies to what I'm interested in for our game. Write this. Write me a narrative. This was one I specifically did. It was an alien world. Give me a narrative around a holiday that species would have in their political sphere and the history and why. So that way I would find out how well they wrote. I could find out how creative they were, whether or not they actually knew anything about what we were doing. And I would say if that opportunity isn't available, go and start doing it proactively. Find companies that you want to work for or the type of narratives you want to and start writing for them. Fan writing, contact the developers and say, look, I've done this for you. And I ended up hiring actually quite a few people like that. So that's how it worked for me, but I don't know how for other people.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to sort of say the same thing a little bit differently is it's right. You know, if you want to be a writer, then you should be doing it, absolutely. You know, mod games, there's a lot of opportunities now where you don't have to worry about making a game engine and you can just write the content. Because when it comes down to it, if somebody says they want an experienced writer, experience means a million different things to a million different people. So it's like, you know, if you have a mod that you can say, well, I wrote this stuff and here's a sample of my work, then, you know, if it hits with what they're trying to look for, that's what it takes. If you just come in like, well, I would love to write for video games, and you know that seems like it would be great. That's not a very good pitch. So.
Another thing I would say is really important, and she touched on it, but know who you're writing for. You should always know your audience. In any question that's been asked, always know who your audience is, because that can almost get you what you want right there. But in terms of writing, you have to, and I know this sounds obvious, but you have to be good. You have to be able to have something given to you and be able to write something that's really good, that's creative, that it is structured well, that has a good voice and has everything surrounding it. So that's why I say practice.
Oh, let me add one thing. A lot of these samples that he reminded me of, a lot of these samples of people that would come to me that were writing, make sure you have good grammar. The storytelling, the ideas would be good. Well, if you're a professional writer, right, you need to have proper grammar. There are some people that I wanted to hire so bad, their storytelling, their ideas were fantastic, but I just couldn't get over the fact that they wrote like they were writing texts, or they didn't put commas anywhere, or it was just bad. And it's really sad because when somebody has really good ideas and you want to hire them, but you can't get over certain technical aspects that a professional, again, if we're back to the be professional, it would have. It'll harm you if you can't do that.
Great question. All right. We don't have a whole lot of time. I'm sorry, there's so many questions. Yes, sir. Punisher.
So what are the challenges in creating a marketing open source game, and what are your opinions on that?
Challenges and advice regarding developing and launching an open source game?
Yes.
Yeah.
No idea, I haven't done it.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done it. Are you talking like where you just sort of have like here's the compiled version of our game, but then you could also go download the source and build it?
The engine's there, and then like you buy the game, like it's compiled and there's also assets inside the game. So if you're the same source, you can copy the assets into the engine so you can play the game and compile it yourself.
Sure. I mean, I don't think very many people do that. I'm not sure that that there's very many companies that sort of worry about like, is it open source or not. Certainly from a professional level, the studio cares because we've got to make sure that we own the rights to release what we're releasing. But I'm not sure, like, if you're making a game, you're making a game. I wouldn't get too hung up on, if open source is something that matters to you, that's fine. I don't think that particular aspect of it necessarily impacts like what you've got to do to make your game, because you still need to make a fun, compelling piece of entertainment at the end of the day. So.
In marketing, I mean, I think there's some crossover with any type of marketing. You want to know your audience. You want to know, like, just find out who's going to be most interested in your game. Figure out, who they are, where they are, so you can reach them. And then, with marketing, you really have to have a budget, too. Like, you have to, I feel, be willing to spend some money to be able to get the word out.
That's good advice. And also, maybe network with people who do that. It's my suggestion. If you know a company that does that, try to meet somebody who works there or does that work. Let's see, just the gentleman in the tie.
How did you guys get started in the game industry?
Great, and how did you break into the game industry, everyone?
I had a boyfriend. And he played games.
Once.
I sat down one day because he forced me to play one. Come on, try it. Oh my God, 8 hours later, I was still sitting there. I'm still not with him. I decided I loved games, and that was the end of it. I figured a way in. It wasn't how to get in. Once I decide I want to do something, I'll figure it out. It's like, that's all there is to it. Be professional. There are lots of ways into things. That's anything, whether it's games or whatever industry you want. Be professional. Lots of ways in. Figure the best way for you in. Know what your own assets are. Know what you've got and what you're good at and what you're not good at. And figure that way in and do it. You'll be fine.
I started going to the Colorado IGDA meetings before the IGDA existed, really. But I just started going to those every month, and eventually, one time, one of the guys there said, "Hey, I want to hire some people. If you know somebody, get them in touch with me." And I did, and that's how I got my first job. But it was sort of what we've been saying, networking and just being a part of the community.
I think I have the most glamorous story. I started as a tester testing Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's Sweet 16. So and I went, but from there I transitioned over to a school called the Guildhall at Southern Methodist University. I was the first class through that. That was back in 2004. Got through there and then just got an internship while I was there at a company called Nerve Software that worked pretty exclusively with id Software and started working on Doom 3. And then that was my ticket in.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I'm kind of echoing what Serafina said. I just decided that I wanted to do it, and my background was more in the bookish end, and so I started by reading everything that I could, and then I decided that I needed to raise money because I wanted to be able to pay people to work for me, so I did an Indiegogo fundraiser, and then I went to meetups and started trying to talk about what I wanted to build, and met people who were interested and wanted to work with me on it, and that's how I have gotten into it thus far.
I mean, there's no one way to do it, kind of how everyone's said, and I think the drive to do it is almost what gets you to where you're going, because if you have that, everything else is just secondary. Like, if you really want to do something, you'll do whatever nothing illegal, but anything else, to get it done. And being around people is huge. Being around people that are involved in the industry as much as you can. I think it's any type of, they call them luxury industries, which are industries, that a lot of people really want to work in them, are a little bit harder than other industries. But the other big thing I would say is persistence. You're going to get the door slammed in your face. You're not going to get everything you go after, but you got to use that and say, well, you know what? I'm going to take that and I'm going to do something even better. You got to, every bump in the road, you just, jump over it and keep going. Because most of the people you find that are successful are the ones that just didn't give up and, kept at it.
And if I could just add one more thing, which is, I think it's interesting to sort of hear how we got into the industry, but the reality is it's a very different industry today. And if I were in your situation today trying to get into the industry, I would just be making games. You know, you can do Flash games and throw them up online. You can put stuff on the App Store. There's so many ways that you don't need anybody else's support other than the drive to actually finish something yourself. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I've got, you know, one of our friends in the industry, their 8-year-old son just put out a very successful game, partly because, you know, his parents are very prominent game designers. Certainly helped, but I mean, I've known a lot of kids that have put out games and been successful in their own right. I've known some very old seniors that have put out games. I would say today, if you want to break into the industry, you know, if you want to get a job, then like go try to find a job. But if you want to just make games and that's what you want to do, make games, put them out there, release them, and in a little bit you'll turn around and realize that you're already there.
Yeah, I mean, think of it as your career starts now, like in your room, making whatever you're doing. Don't think like someone's going to give you this opportunity. Make your own opportunity. And like he said, make stuff as much as you can.
Yeah.
Very good. I think we are done on time. All right, I'm getting the wrap it up symbol, you guys. Thank you so much for coming. I'm sorry we couldn't answer all your questions. Please give it up for these guys. Good luck to everyone here, and have a great convention weekend.